Welcome to BROADish. I'm Felicia Madison with co-host Jocelyn Chia, and we are so lucky and fortunate to have two special guests with us today. One from also from Singapore, Sam C. Hi, Sam.
Hello. Good morning over there.
We stayed up to 2 a.m. in the morning just for us.
And all the way from New York, we have Jay Jurden.
Introduce our guest a little bit. Jay is one of the best and fastest rising stars in the New York scene. He's been recently on The Tonight Show, Jimmy Fallon. Sam C is this great comedian in Singapore. He was recently on the Jim Jeffries show. So we have like a stellar duo of guests today. I'm very honored to have the both of you.
Thank you for joining us. Our first topic, I don't know how much Sam is going to know about Cuckoo for Cuomo. This you could just kind of pitch in. But I personally have to say from the beginning, I never really got this whole Cuomo thing. I said, remember when we all loved Rudy Giuliani and that didn't turn out so well? I never liked him. So I kind of am not surprised that all this craziness is going on. What do you guys think?
That's so interesting. To me, it feels like I just found out that my beloved grandpa is a molester. I was like, what?
Well,
I thought he was the shit.
I don't think it's like finding out a grandpa is a molester. I think it's finding out that this sounds terrible. That older men do older men shit. Like everyone was just kind of like, oh yeah. And you never want to brush it under the rug, but right now people are like, oh, it was pretty inappropriate stories. I don't know if it's gotten to the level of like inappropriate touching, but yeah, anyone who's been successful like since the 80s did terrible things. That's just like the rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he didn't do it just to women. He was also just basically asserting his power across the board. And that's probably why he was so effective with COVID. He's like, fuck this Trump. I'm going to deal with New York the way I want to deal with New York. And that's how he dealt with his subordinates, too.
Is Cuomo like a homosexual with a cat? Am I missing something?
Well, sort of. He is Italian. No, it's...
Oh, no.
He is our governor. So he's the governor of the state of New York. And at first, everyone thought he was doing a great job with coronavirus. And then we found out he might have fudged the numbers on people's grandmas and grandpas dying. And now we're finding out that he told dirty stories and probably yelled at people and might have touched some people in a very Don Drapery way. I don't know how to describe it.
It's so strange because, Biden came out with the same thing also. He was touching people. And it's kind of like what you were saying, Jay. If they were in that generation, that's just the way. Look at...
Which sucks. And I'm glad that we know not to touch people anymore.
Right.
But like, I grew up...
generations for us to learn that shit.
Yes. I grew up with older women who definitely had stories about their bosses like pinching their butts, and I was like,
wow, that's insane.
But it's in the 60s and 70s. I totally believe people did that in the 80s too.
Yeah, you gotta have the Asian mentality. If they want to touch, you gotta charge them for it. That should be like the standard. Charge them for it. Get an interest on it. But it's serious. I do know who Cuomo is, and I know the situation, and it's a bit shocking. It seems like every governor in America just letting their state down. Like we don't even need to talk about Texas.
Yes.
Sam, so they're talking about how terrible not just America but New York is in Singapore.
Guys, I was at a dinner today and there was a whole table of Singaporeans next to me talking about how messed up America is, how shit America is. They're just shitting on America the whole time.
This is I believe it. But we are we're Southeast Asia. We are like socialist heaven, and we are just like, see what happens when you trust a capitalist? You die. At least in socialism, you know who kills you. Capitalism, anything could kill you. It's like you want certainty in your death. Socialism is the way to go.
I always knew that America was a laughing point after Crazy Rich Asians because people were like, wow, that's like such a cool romantic story about the rest of the world. And I was like, y'all, that's not a story. That's like real. Like, don't you understand why people enjoyed it? Because it's like true. It's like it's not fairy tale.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
like when Crazy Rich Asians came out, and then I think a lot of Americans was like, oh my God, there's just another part of the world where they're like that. It's like, you do know there's Chinese people everywhere. Magical thing called Chinatown. It's like our portal into other places. Like we just step into in a chimney sweep, throw down the flume, and then boom, we're just ending up in like Toronto for some reason.
When I first came to America, people were like, "Oh, you're from Singapore? What part of China is that?" Then after Crazy Rich Asians came about, some Americans like, "Oh, you're from Singapore? I know Singapore. I saw Crazy Rich Asians. It's the richest part of China."
Jocelyn, I don't want to bust chops, but are you doing bits? Are you doing bits on a podcast, Jocelyn?
It is a bit. We can do bits on the podcast.
She did preface it with when she first came here, so I do believe it.
Well, I was just amazed that there's another place that has better shoe closets than Manhattan. Than the Upper East. I'm like, wow, look at those closets. I'm moving to Singapore.
Well, it's so weird now that like New York is slowly but surely figuring out what they want to do with the vaccine. And I'm seeing a lot of people get vaccinated, and I think everyone should do it. But I feel like some of my friends have come up with like the most technical excuses. They're like, well, technically, I watch a lot of student teacher porn, so I'm an educator, so I'm gonna hop in this line.
Yeah, I work with comedians, so I'm an educator too.
I mean, I teach a comedy
Special
class.
needs.
I'm an educator.
Well, Jocelyn, get in line.
That's right.
So Johnson & Johnson's, their vaccines are now approved for American use. Am I
Yes.
correct in this one?
Yeah, well,
And their rival, Merck, is actually going to help them manufacture it.
Yeah, one shot. I'm very upset because this is America. I thought the one thing we could do right was get needles in people's arms, but it's taking a very, very long time.
Oh,
It's only if
God.
the white people are forcing the black neighborhoods to do it. Then it's easy, but then if you gotta force the white people to do it, it's just a little bit harder.
Well, the thing is, there's like a tiny little bit of resistance at first to some vaccination practices in Black communities, because I don't know if y'all know this, but America hasn't had the best track record with the way they treat Black people medically.
What?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Get out of it.
So
For how long, Jay? How long has this been?
it's like 402 years, give or take.
Oh.
So there's been like this push to make sure Black people were in the trial studies for the vaccines, and that Black people in Black and brown neighborhoods are getting vaccinated, because and I think we're also still susceptible to some conspiracy theories, just because like some conspiracy theories were right, like being like, oh, they definitely like help distribute crack into Black and brown communities. Like in the 90s, people were like, that's crazy conspiracy theory talk. And now in 2021, you're like, oh, that's just a documentary.
Okay, we're going to move on to this. I think this is, I call it Balcosize. I'm in Miami on vacation, and whenever you look up at a building, I see like at least 5 or 6 people exercising on the balcony. I'm a little worried, like they're going to like do a crossover step kick and like go over. But everyone's now exercising from home, exercising even in the gym with like the videos. What do you think, guys? Do you think people are going to ever go back to the gyms? Is this like a permanent thing? People are staying home now and exercising?
Y'all have balconies in America? We don't even have an attic or a garage.
Sam,
Wow.
Sam, what do you think we're throwing ourselves off of?
Well, in Asia, we just have the iPhone factories. I'm not sure what y'all have in America. The Taco Bells?
Oh
Do
my
y'all
God.
do that? The Little Caesars?
They're Taco Bell / Pizza Huts now. We had to like combine the space. I think people will go back to the gym. This is maybe something I should be saying publicly. I go to the gym now. I try to go when it's super empty. I double mask. I snitch on everyone I see that has their nose out. Oh, I will run to a gym attendant, and because I'm very passive aggressive, I'll be like, that person didn't have their mask on. Also, they're on a piece of equipment that I want to use. So get them out of the way.
I wonder if it's a comedian thing, because I snitch also. I find it. I find there's nothing more aggravating than someone wearing a mask with their nose sticking out. It just like really irritates me.
Has it turned? It's turned me. It's turned me a bit more racist, and I don't know how to say this without getting in trouble. But it's how I guess some racist people feel, because every time I go outside, I'm like, look at all these different types of noses. Get them out of my face. Just where? It's a year. Are Americans that dumb? Are we that dumb?
Yeah. Yeah, do you have to ask that question? We had Trump for 4 years. So you think we're that dumb?
I don't know. It's just very weird. Like basic interactions now have become like hard for people to do.
I can't breathe with the mask on in the gym. I find it very difficult. That's why I don't like to go to the gym.
In Singapore, we have it the reverse. When you're outdoors in the fresh air, you have to wear your mask on. But when you're in the gym, breathing hard, all your gas is out, you don't have to wear a mask. It's very backward.
You can't wear a mask outdoors in Singapore if you're running. Because apparently,
if you're running, then you don't have to wear
over the place, then it's safer because you're pushing the COVID further away from them.
Very weird.
As Asian comics, are y'all happy now that America is finally becoming a bit less gross? I think that whenever in the past, when I was traveling and you would see like people coming to and from wearing masks on a plane before coronavirus, people would be like, oh, don't you think that's a bit overkill? And now, how does it feel to see everyone stealing y'all's like steez?
No, I would say that like when I've traveled, the Americans have always been like the nicest, sweetest people. Like they're the polite ones. They were wearing the mask before because the Americans that travel have a passport and an education, so they're the polite ones. It's the Europeans that don't. The Europeans that are like, we're gonna. So I've always loved the Americans.
Once again, another thing that people forget is that whenever, God, this sounds terrible. Whenever things got really crazy, it was the Italian strain in America. It wasn't.
Wow, this is a.
Well, I think Americans wearing the mask is just a great equalizer. Now we can't tell y'all apart either.
Especially those dreaded Italians. Am I right, Jay? Damn, Italians.
What do you think this is? Do the right thing? You're not going to get me in trouble.
Nah.
But with an Italian accent, so it's a bit different.
A bit.
I'm not gonna do it. Do it. I can. I'm. The rules I feel for doing accents is that as long as you are darker skin tone than the accent you're doing, it's legal. It's kosher.
My friend.
But I can't do any accents.
No, Felicia.
You can do Scandinavian accents.
Yeah,
you can
Felicia,
do like a Viking.
You can go like as far west as far east as Czechoslovakia. That's as far as you can go accent-wise. Right around the Caucasus Mountains starts to get questionable. You get into Turkey, we don't know.
She can do the Scandinavian accent.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I tried to do a Southern accent and I got dissed by Dhaya. Remember that, Jocelyn?
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah, she tried. You want to try on these boys and see what they think?
Because they're Southeast Asian and I'm from Mississippi. So.
We're South. We are South.
I have PTSD from it. I don't think it's not my thing.
Felicia, we believe in you. We are your friends.
Because you can just do. Felicia, since you're from New Jersey, right?
Yeah. Can't you
so
tell from my accent?
A Jersey? No, you did a good job. Whatever school beat it out of you, did a very.
I'm surprised you're from Jersey, so don't seem like it.
No,
balcony. There's no way you're from New Jersey.
Yeah, exactly.
I've come a long way, babe.
You sure have.
That's my lifelong goal, to get out of New Jersey.
Into a balcony.
But now that they have weed, you might want to go back.
Yes, really. I could use some. So do we? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, you're in Florida. You've got far weirder things there.
Oh God, it's like
just got alligators with no mask.
Gator meth. Even the gators have no teeth there.
Florida's like New Jersey's gone wild.
Oh wow! Wow.
You know, fit right in, huh?
Everyone's come down here from New York, and it's really funny because they're all so happy, but it's like we were caged animals that have been let go into the wilds of Florida. So everyone's like just wandering, or like so happy, having fun because they've been caged into like tiny apartments for a year.
You guys all playing the alligators now?
Sam, Jocelyn, correct me if I'm wrong. Felicia, are you at a swingers resort? It just sounded way too happy.
Everyone here is happy. It's like the strangest. I mean, it's like seriously, they're just like, we've escaped from our cage and we're all just running wild and happy.
So everyone's just getting COVID. They don't care.
I don't think it's bad here. I think because they've been going wild, they've never stopped. So I think it's like I think there's herd immunity here. It's a herd. There's a herd and there's herd immunity here.
Oh my God.
They're happy, they're smiling, they're running off the cliff at the same time. They're together in a herd. They're fine. They're fine.
I like visiting Florida. We used to go to Miami every year, and every time you go to Florida, the thing that I realize is that the people who are like nice to you are from Florida, and the people who are terrible are usually tourists like you. So like that's what I've realized. So Felicia's down there with all the New York and New Jersey transplants. So have you seen people? Have you been like, I thought you were on the Upper East Side, and you were like, I thought you were on the Upper East Side.
The United States is tipped a little bit. With all the weights in Florida. Okay, guys, we're going to move on to our next topic, which is thanks to Jocelyn. This is yours, so you can take it. It's rod or spoon, strict or laissez-faire. In my family, we call it positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement. I'm like a negative reinforcer. My husband's a positive reinforcer. I'm not really sure which one's the best, but what do you guys think? Do you think it's the strict or the not strict?
Well, Jocelyn, I gotta warn you, when you have two queer comedians and you say rod or spoon, we just think that this is a new dating app. And
we're just like, why not both?
Why not both? Yeah.
Have the person and then spank them from the front. That's how you do it, right?
I believe it's called an Eiffel Tower, Sam.
You need one more person, and then then you have to say we, and then there's a rat on your hair pulling it. You know, that's
rod or spoon. I think America is proof that sometimes in like the kind of go your own way situation doesn't work. So maybe, you know what, I'm gonna be an old millennial and say more rod. We need more rod, more punishment, negative reinforcement. Let people know who's boss. Let people know there are consequences to their actions, Governor Cuomo. Let people know that retribution will be handed out swiftly if they misbehave.
Sam, I thought this would be a good chance for you to share with our American listeners how Singapore really got COVID down using that rod, because we have 0 to 1 community transmissions of COVID per day.
Yeah, simple. If you spread COVID, we put you in jail. You go out, we put you in jail. You do anything, you cough at something weird, you look at someone weird, you hold up a cardboard sign, you go to jail. Personally, between rod or spoon, I prefer Rod Stewart. But works best. The rod works best because you can look at all the countries where it has been successful, like New Zealand, Taiwan, Singapore, the countries where they have taken a much more harsher step to it. Not only have they been able to lock it down, but the economy has been able to restart quicker and more successfully, rather than the countries or the cities or states who have gone, you know what, let's just open it up because for economy. But the problem is when you do that, more people get infected, it gets worse, and the economy stays closed for even longer. It's a basically short-term game, long-term loss. And it just depends on which political stance you're going for. You're going for like a quick buck and then trying to pass it on to your health minister, or are you trying to be the front and center, like say a New Zealand strategy where you're trying to seem like the figurehead over everything. So really depends on which kind of front you're going for, which PR as politically you're trying to push.
But no one's getting caned for spreading COVID, right? There's no real rod. It's just jail.
Singapore will hang you.
Yeah. In the United States, they have something called civil liberties that we're all saying, we can't do that. So what do they do in Singapore if you cut someone's face and give them a kiss? What happens to you?
Wasn't there a couple that got caught, that got arrested for going on a date?
Yeah, no, so
did you read about
happened,
this one?
Yes, so no, not they didn't go on a date. What happened is that they were both sequestered in different rooms in a hotel, and one of them broke out of quarantine to meet his lover, jailed for 2 months.
Oh, no.
That's what happened.
Wow.
Singapore. Fuck your love story. Fuck your romance.
Although I don't know if there's jail sex going on in Singapore jails.
Oh my God! Imagine the guilt trip, though. I went to jail for you. Oh.
No, Jay, don't worry. They both went to jail. Singapore.
Oh
Listen, we're all equal. We're all equal here. We did have a comic that went to jail recently in Singapore at like end 2019, early 2020. There's not a lot of sex that goes on in prison. Just oral. Just oral. Just a little bit of fun.
You know, I think they were purposely trying to catch people who would break rules as well, because I had to quarantine for 14 days at a hotel in Singapore when I first came in, and they gave you a key card, but they do not tell you that it's one-time use only, meaning once you enter your room and put it in the power thing, if you leave, it doesn't let you back into your room. So you have to go to the counter and admit that you tried to escape your room. But they didn't tell you this in the beginning. They're just trying to trap you.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's the very Singaporean/Asian upbringing. But to be fair, you had a nice room in Singapore, didn't you, Jocelyn? You had like
I had a really nice
room.
room. I had the Shangri-La.
I saw that and I was like, damn, I wish I was quarantined too.
You saw my room, really? Oh, probably one of these shows.
Yeah, you showed it and I was like, oh man, I wish I was flying back into Singapore now. It looks pretty.
You can just go off and then come back and pay $2,000.
Bye.
Oh God! Well, that's where Escape the Room probably started, in Singapore.
In America, if you go to a different country, like let's say I went from New York to Florida, I don't think they would make you quarantine when you come back. They do the questionnaire and they check up on you, but America is very trusting, and New York especially, to be the place, to be like the greatest city in the world. When you fly back into LaGuardia or you fly back into JFK, they're like military personnel, National Guard personnel that give you a sheet and they make you fill it out. And then they just kind of go, and we trust you, and we might call you, we might not. I was like, hey, could we define this relationship? I need to know if I'm getting a call or not.
I did get a call.
You did?
I did. She called me and she was asking me all sorts of questions. She said I couldn't leave my room. Someone had to go shopping for me and someone had to deliver my meals. And I'm like, that sounds amazing.
No video, right? You can always cheat in a phone call. Like one girl that we were talking to did. She was at the grocery store when they called and she's like, yeah, I'm at home. But in Singapore... In Singapore, they video chatted with me. They were like, can you show me your hotel room? And I had to show them my hotel room, make sure I was in there.
Jocelyn,
video call, you gotta take pictures, you gotta hold up like the newspaper to show us this day and this time.
That's hilarious. Jocelyn, when they asked that, were you like, well, what are you going to show me? This doesn't seem fair.
You show me. I'll show you. You show me yours.
Yeah.
Well, I think we concluded that the rod is the way we should be raising kids and running our government. Is that what we decided?
At least until everyone gets the vaccine. More rod. And
More
then
rod.
And Rod Stewart's.
This is for your kids. Rod, not the pole. Two different things.
Okay, we're going to move on to our last segment, guys. Very sad tribute to Richie, the owner of the comic strip Live. It's very sad because I feel like I don't think he died of COVID, but I wonder if the fact that he didn't have his club to go to every day, which sort of kept him alive, is what really killed him. That loss of hope, and probably his drive, his living force was going to that club every night.
Yeah, I do read about people who, after they retire, is when they tend to just die because they have nothing left to live for. If they don't have like a spouse or grandkids to live for, once they lose their purpose, they lose their will to live.
Comedy clubs, people fail to like sort of recognize it's not just like a place for people to come and watch a show and have a good time. For a lot of the performers, staff, and people behind the scenes, it's part of a community. It's a place where you feel safe, you can talk to people, you can joke around. It feels like home, and it's been closed for a long time across the world, and I think that it's a dear loss that a lot of the comedy clubs are no longer there. We've lost our homes, our community, our friends, our loved ones, and it's just...
Singapore has lost its only comedy club. The Mary Ryan has shut down, and we have no more comedy clubs.
Why? Why did it just
one?
Why did it shut down?
I was the director. I can tell you why, because we couldn't get government clearance to reopen it. So
well, welcome to New York City.
Yeah, that's.
We'll take over we'll tell Aiden to buy the comic strip live.
No, don't get Aiden. He thinks COVID's a conspiracy. Really thinks
I think moving forward, though, there will. Hopefully, this is like one part of the pendulum, and there will be a huge swing in the opposite direction. I mean, with the good news concerning America and the vaccination rollout this past week, like that, it's looking like by the end of May, they'll have enough for every adult. But it is sad, especially you talk about the Upper East Side when we talk about Comic Strip Live. You want to make sure that they have a place to go see comedy. I know people make fun of Dangerfields a lot, but like you want to make sure that that becomes something else. Like live entertainment can't just go away in New York City. Like I love StreamYard and I love Zoom, but once things open up, fuck this.
Exactly. Fuck this. I'm out.
I think it's really important that we reopen and come back. But because in Asia things are reopening, there are shows happening again. But it is like an important thing that as performers, sometimes a lot of performers are like, how do we get back? Or how do we cheat a few of the restrictions? How do we get back on stage? Because we want to perform. And I always want to remind them, it's like, at the end of the day, I know people want to come back. I know people want to perform, but you need an audience and they matter. Their lives matter. Please don't just try to cheat your way and try to do an underground show just so that you can feel that. I know you miss the laughs, but these people came out for you. They're putting their trust in you that you can run a safe show. Please do that. Please make sure you're running a safe show. I know it's not as many.
I think, Sam, you need to get arrested because then you'll have a really captive audience in jail.
And New York has gotten so creative. We have shows in the subway station because churches are exempt from these COVID rules. We have shows in churches.
Yeah, there were shows outside this summer. Rooftop shows are back. Technically, they're happening again because it's 40 because it's going to be 50 degrees. Anytime it's over 50 degrees, people are like, I guess. So, I mean, I really, really, really hope that once again that Richie's family and friends and like some very famous people who came up in that club, particularly Seinfeld and Eddie Murphy, like throw some money towards the comic strip and just like help us bring comedy back in the next few months.
I don't know when the clubs are going to open. I mean, I know, like you said, a lot last year and all the outdoor shows that were all done, they were actually illegal. And now they've legalized outdoor comedy and they're having a whole open culture.
But unfortunately, it was Governor Cuomo who was shaking hands with Seinfeld. So now it looks bad.
Yeah. Well, it's also funny that Cuomo said, you know, he was joking around when he was accused of all this bad behavior. And I'm like, you know, you should just leave comedy to the comedians. Yeah. I think that was our general consensus is all these politicians should just leave comedy to the comedians.
What was so interesting about these outdoor shows, it completely changed the power dynamic in the New York comedy scene. Do you know what I mean? Like the power used to belong to the clubs and that was it. Like that's where everyone wanted to get into. And then with all the clubs shut, you suddenly have these like open micers who you have never heard of before, telling people who have been on Fallon and Colbert, like, yeah, can you send me a tape? We're like, who are you?
Hey, guys. Oh, I never had to do that, but I would have just been like, I can send you a link.
It's like when I went to America, it's such a weird thing. There's like a lot of gatekeeping when it comes to the clubs. Not that I say it's good or bad. It's just that it's a different take from a scene that's been so established for generations, the scene that started stand-up, compared to, let's say, Asia, where we're all under 10 years of like experience and age. So it's like, it's an eye-opening where there is, it's not just like a show, there's 5 shows a night. People are everywhere and everyone's coming in, enjoying comedy. And you can just, as a comic, you can go from show to show to show and you can just polish your sword just every single night.
I think it'll be a good mix of both when it comes back. There's going to be a lot of new energy and then there's going to be a lot of established but helpful and kind of like we're glad we're still here energy, because at the end of the day you need a bit of admin and a lot of structure to make sure that comedy goes smoothly, because if someone is a great comedian then they're gonna be good for a number of audiences, but they're only as good as the microphone, as the stage, as the venue, as the booker, as the show they're on, as the wait staff. Like there's so much kind of help that goes into making it a pleasant experience, because someone could be like, oh, that person crushed it, but I never got my nachos.
Well, it's funny.
Admin is such a huge part of, like, I think Felicia would agree, like, admin is such a huge part of comedy clubs and, like, making a comedy show good. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I would kind of agree with what Jocelyn's saying. It's like if you have $15 and a phone, all of a sudden you're a club booker and a talent scout. You know, everyone, all of a sudden everyone's like a booker and everyone's putting on shows, and it's just, there's just so many people. So I think, you know, there's like restaurants and you know, I said I feel like I'm in a Dr. Seuss book. Like I did comedy on a train, I did it on a grass, I did it on a Zoom. I do not like it in the train, I do not like it on the grass. I want to do it on a stage.
Yeah.
Well, we're almost there if everyone just behaves themselves.
I finally get to do a real live comedy show in March in Singapore. I'm very excited about
Ooh.
that.
Oh, amazing. Fingers crossed. Well, I'm jealous. You know, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I'm a little nervous to get on stage because I've gotten so used to Zoom and having my notes up on that I'm going to have to put stickies on like the foreheads of the front row, you know?
Yeah, well, I don't think Zoom has helped comics stop like being creative, because they're like still super creative and interactive. I feel like there are gonna be like some Zoom habits that people will have to break. Like you're gonna be like waiting for a comment to come in instead of being like, oh, I could just do my next joke. And
the next heckler that comes in, I'm like, hey, can the host mute that heckler?
I think just gotta get used to the delivery of, like, if a joke doesn't work, you don't have that breathing time anymore. Like if like if you have a riff that doesn't work, you can't like breathe. You have to like, okay, jump on straight.
You can't blame it on bad Wi-Fi.
And people are going to be either very loud or very quiet. I feel like people are going to be adjusting to what it means to be in the space again. So and wearing pants.
Yeah, right. And I noticed that some jokes on Zoom go better just because they can see my whole face. So if something's like very expression driven, it can work very well in a Zoom show. But then when I tried it at like a regular in-person open mic or show, it can bomb. I was like, oh, because you guys can't see my face.
Yeah, it's TV versus theater, really.
Well, that's right,
The one thing I noticed is that callbacks don't work on Zoom because people aren't paying attention to your entire routine.
That makes sense, yeah.
You can call back to like the host. That's as far as you can call back.
Yeah, you're like, hey, well, because they have 4 different tabs open for you.
Right.
So like in Singapore, there's already some live performances, and like the tip I would give is just don't go back into stage with like, because there's reduced seating and everything. Don't go back expecting there's gonna be roars. Just expect it to be a bit slow. We're all coming back together. We're all crawling out of the womb again together, like getting blinded by the light, and we just all have to. It's not just us. Audiences are also going to have to experience this again for the first time. We're all going to have to learn together, which is good. Yeah. Which is good.
Like a virgin.
Born again virgins.
Born again virgins. Okay, guys, thank you. This is a great episode. Thank you for joining us on BROADish Live. I'm Felicia Madison.
I'm Jocelyn Chia.
And thank you, Jay Jurden and Sam C. Jay, why don't you tell us where people could find you and before we log off?
You can find me in my apartment because I'm obeying quarantine rules, but also online at Jay Jurden on all social media. And you can listen to my debut album, Jay Jurden, y'all. It's on iTunes, Spotify, all the streaming services.
Great. And Sam?
Jay.
You can find me online. I'm streaming on Twitch at Mr. Sam C, MrSamSee. I have a comedy special out, and like a dumbass, I charged for it because it is poor quality. Poor quality. The audio is crap. But hey, come on by.
You are Chinese, so you had to charge for it. I mean, you wouldn't be a Chinese person otherwise.
You know it, Jocelyn. You know.
I know it. I mean, look, when I had this video that went somewhat viral on Bilibili, which is China's YouTube. And so all these Chinese people were starting to follow me on Instagram. I was like, what is going on? And someone said, oh, you went viral on Bilibili, China's YouTube. And being a self-respecting Chinese person, my first thing was I went to check out its stock price to see if I want to invest in it.
I'm just like so shocked. There's something like a Chinese website is Billy and there's like 4 L's in there. Like, God bless the Chinese.
Oh no!
I can do the joke. I'm Chinese. I'm allowed to.
No, I don't. Oh my goodness, Felicia, this makes me so happy whenever other people can tell semi-racist jokes.
It's just self-hatred. That's what depression is.
I want to know where an old white lady could go viral.
Where? In Florida? Have you not been to the hospital?
That's right.
That's the only virus I'm going to get right now. Okay, guys, thank you. This is BROADish.